it's life-changing once we start to actually drill down on like what improves our mental health. I'm curious to know what you think is causing this like mental health crisis that it feels like we're in as a society.
Technology is overwhelming us. I think our society is highly unexpressed. And I think the best cure for repression or depression is expression. Everybody has a different mountain to climb, and everybody will have different views. Emotion is supposed to be energy in motion. You have to move the energy. You can do it in lots of different ways.
Hi guys, welcome back to the show. I hope you're doing great. May is Mental Health Month, and we're going to be diving into mental wellness from a bunch of different perspectives all throughout the month. And we're kicking it off today with an episode that's really centered around how to use creativity and self-expression for better mental and emotional health. And this is not a topic that is just reserved for artists and creatives. This is an episode for any human who is looking to cultivate better emotional well-being. And to help us find our way to creative alchemy and better mental health, I called in my friend and my favorite writer, Adam, who is publicly known by his stage name, Inquire. Inquire is an Emmy-nominated poet, multi-platinum songwriter, world-renowned keynote speaker, and best-selling author of Inquire Within and the Never-Ending Now poetry journal. You've probably heard his songs on the radio. He has written songs with artists like Selena Gomez, Miley, Cyrus, Mike Posner, and he was named to Oprah's SuperSoul 100 list of the world's most influential thought leaders. He also works with brands like Nike, Spotify, and Google to help their teams tell their stories and find their authentic voice. So I've been fortunate enough to work with Adam, spreading his art into the world over the last 2 years. And I really have seen firsthand the impact that this can have on people's emotional well-beings, on their connection to others, on how they process and deal with their pasts and their futures. And I met Adam on a writing retreat that he hosted in Morocco in 2022. And I went there feeling pretty fucking lost, to be honest. And I really needed something to pull me out of a slump, and found this retreat, was so excited about it. And it literally changed my life. It changed the trajectory of my life to go there and meet other like-minded writers and to learn how to use my writing, which is something I always did like very privately, to use it as a tool to alchemize and to process what I was going through in my life. We cover a lot in today's episode, so I'm just going to kick it off by letting Adam's poetry speak for itself through a few of my favorite clips of his very powerful performances.
Starve your pain, find your ego. Starve your ego, find your beast. Starve your beast, find your truth. Find your truth, find your peace. You will always find the evidence for what you choose to believe. So if you don't like your story, don't believe it. We are all storytellers, and the stories that we tell ourselves and other people become our lives. Change your story, change your life.
I stopped focusing on everything that I had been hateful for, and I started focusing on everything that I can be grateful for. And personally, there's a lot that you can be thankful for. So if pain is dragging you down, just cut your ankle cord. That's when the weight lifted and I really started living. It's when my hate shifted and I really started giving. It's when my fate twisted. It was like an ego exorcism. See, your mind state can be the most powerful of prisons.
Keep loving through your sadness. Keep loving through your fears. Keep loving through your anger. Keep loving through your tears. Keep loving through your failure. Keep loving through success. Keep loving through anxiety. Keep loving through distress. Keep loving through rejection. Keep loving through mistrust. Keep loving through your jealousy. Keep loving through your lust. Keep loving through your movement. Keep loving through your breath. Keep loving until loving is the only thing that's left.
I'm so excited to share this conversation with you guys. Let's get into it. Adam, thank you so much for being here. I'm truly honored to have you on the show. I don't think you probably even realize how much your art and your work and working with you has impacted me.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be the first guy.
This is the first man on the show.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
I told Andriana and she was like, very, very impressed. More impressed than many things I tell her, actually.
Wow. Yeah. Well, on this show, we have a lot of conversations about things that we should have learned growing up, but really never got to. And I think one of the biggest things I'm observing with people in my life is how much we're just now learning to take care of our emotional health. And it's life-changing once we start to actually drill down on like what improves our mental health. And I know you've been on this journey for a while. You've released a beautiful journal, The Never Ending Now, and an album last year. And it's such a vulnerable look at your mental health journey. It's an amazing piece of art.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I would love to start by hearing a bit about how creativity has been a tool for you to improve your emotional health.
Well, I think our society is highly unexpressed, at least in creativity, because as kids, we get to play in all different ways. And it doesn't matter if you're great at art, you just have an opportunity to express yourself through it. And you learn about yourself through that process of expression. But then as adults, we tend to find something, that we're good at, or we just get a job or a career out of necessity. And we focus all our energy on that and we calcify because we stop playing. And that's really what art is about. Like if you go see a band, you go see a band play. And we forget that art is about play. And when you're able to play with things that are moving and meaningful to you, you can kind of like release energy. You can get more awareness to who you are, where you've come from, and where you want to go. And you can manifest your dreams into the future.
Yeah, 100%. Having attended so many of your workshops and retreats, it's also kind of crazy how much you can alchemize what you're going through writing about it or through expressing through art. Like it gives you this bird's eye perspective on your life and allows you to like approach it in a way that you can't necessarily when you're in it.
Yeah, I would say that's really accurate. I've experienced that as a facilitator, and I've experienced that in my own poetry journey.
Yeah. This is a big question, but you have a potent way of observing the world. I'm curious to know what you think is causing this like mental health crisis that it feels like we're in as a society.
I think it has a lot to do with the access to information. Technology is overwhelming us. We're not really supposed to be connected to this many people simultaneously. If anything major happens in the news, for the most part, we know about it within 5 minutes, no matter who we are or where we are. There's some great things that come out of that. I mean, to have supercomputers in our pockets, to be able to post something about this podcast, and then somebody in India or Africa or Australia knows about it in the same second is really beautiful. And I think in many ways, this is a part of hive mind human evolution. But we're also like staring at screens. We're not staring into people's eyes. We forget compassion in that way. We look at people as if they're their page rather than the person. We only see them in these small, bite-sized, compartmentalized versions of themselves. And because of that, we're constantly comparing ourselves to somebody else's perfect presentation when everybody is actually going through things.
Yeah.
And being reminded of that on a daily basis is how you drop into your heart and find the story beyond the details so that you can relate, so that you can lean in, so that you can learn about yourself through somebody else's experiences. And then I think everybody's, as I said at the beginning, highly unexpressed. And I think the best cure for repression or depression is expression. But there's not a lot of spaces for true expression. And online, it's way easier to hate than it is to create. When you hate, feels good. Actually, hating together can even feel like love.
Yeah, people bond over it.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And then people get addicted to that feeling. And they kind of like do it over and over again to get their high. It's much more challenging to like sit down and think, who am I? What am I going through? What do I want to contribute? Where is my value? And then pushing that through an art form. But it's also much more gratifying. And I think that if more people did that, they would have better mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. Emotion is supposed to be energy in motion. You have to move the energy. You can do it in lots of different ways, but art and specifically poetry is one of them.
What are some of the other modalities that you use? I know you do a lot like between therapy and meditation, but what are some of your go-to like pillars of good mental health?
I just started therapy again, and I fucking didn't want to. I was like, I don't want to do this again.
Yeah.
I actually
Had you
told
taken a big
the
break?
therapist. Yeah, yeah. My therapist that I had for a really long time, Dr. Bob Resnick, passed away, unfortunately. And he was like a real powerful person in my life, especially because my father wasn't around. He kind of like gave me guidance, and I trusted him in a way that I didn't normally trust men. Um, at many kind of like seasons where it was necessary for me, starting in my 20s. So I haven't gone and seen anyone since. And I recently made the decision to go back to therapy to get ahead of a few things in my life. And so I literally said it to the therapist when I arrived. I was like, I'm really reluctant to be here. I don't want to do this again. I don't want to open up my life to somebody again.
And start over.
Start over. Also, you know, I've seen behind the curtain so many times, and all of these people that are like pretending to be guides, their lives are usually a mess.
Yeah.
So, you know, I literally said that to him, and he responded really well to it and didn't take it personally. And so we were actually able to open up in an authentic way. Therapy is great. Meditation is great. Breath work is great. Yoga is great. I think intentional, even working out. You could go to the gym and just work out at the gym, or you can go to a boxing class and just be at the boxing class, or you can actually dedicate your practice to something that you want to release or something you want to create. It can deepen your experience of being in there and give you kind of like multiple areas of benefit, not just the physical.
Yeah. I kind of like stacking a few things together. Like yesterday, I got acupuncture in my ear for the first time. They were just
Cool.
giving it away. I was like, cool, stick needles in my ear. Let's see what happens. I've never had acupuncture, but they were doing it to support, I guess, like the collective mental health of the city after the fires. So people are just popping up and doing it in different places, which is a beautiful gift to give. And then you have to sit for 20 minutes with the needles in your ears. And so I'm like, okay, I could just sit here, or I could like use this 20 minutes to like do a loving kindness meditation to a bunch of people in my life who I know are struggling right now. And more than the needles, or maybe the needles helped, who knows, but like I just started crying because it was this just potent time to give as much good energy as I could to people that I love. And I find anytime I kind of combine a few things, it unlocks a bit more. Like if I'm doing a yoga practice or like a slow Pilates or something, when my body is online and doing that, I can like tap into way more mentally at the same time.
I think that's amazing. And I think that more people should do it. And I have had plenty of times in my life where just the act of slowing down and having real intention before doing something heightened the practice. And then because it heightened the practice, it rippled into my life for longer and deeper.
Yeah, 100%. It's an interesting point also about how a lot of therapists, like, or any of these leaders that we kind of look to, how their lives are often a mess behind the scenes. And I think that's also interesting too, because the people that we look up to or seek help from, we can kind of have this expectation that they have it all figured out. And I think one of the things I love about your writing is that it's this insight into like what you're trying to give to yourself, and that you don't pretend to have it all figured out. You don't pretend to be a guru who knows everything that you're talking about. It's like the message that you need to hear comes out in your art. And I think that's beautiful.
I would make way more money if I pretended to be a guru.
Yeah.
You know, I do all right, but I really think that the brand of invincibility is so much more interesting to people because they want to buy the answers.
Yeah.
You know, me included. I mean, I see somebody, I hope they could give me all the answers for my complicated miracle of a life.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Don't trust anyone who claims to know exactly, like have an absolute prescriptive thing that you should be doing.
Yeah. They can tell you what has worked for them in a season of their life, but they can't say what will work for you, and they can't say forever, you know, because they don't know what's going to show up tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's why for me, art is an exploration. It's not like some sort of a destination. And it's more fun that way because I don't know what I'll create tomorrow. and I don't know who I'll be tomorrow. And I would much rather live that life of uncertainty and joy and play than become some successful version of myself where everybody has to see me a certain way. Otherwise, that part of my identity will die. And then you start to just hold on tighter and tighter and tighter, and then you suffocate it. I remember way back in the day, I had this idea for Nike, and I've worked with them before. I'm wearing Nikes right now. I love Nike.
Not sponsored.
No, yeah, well.
Sponsor us.
Anyway, I had this idea for their brand, just do it anyway.
I love that.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So because, they basically sell invincibility. That is their brand. But I thought it would be really cool if they got like a bunch of like comedians, basically, and then they would pair them with different professional athletes, and they would basically like try to do the sport. And Jack
That's
Black
so
would be like
good.
fumbling around, or like Kevin Hart, or like, any of these like incredible comedians would just do improv. And then it would just, in the end, as they're like messing up, doing whatever the thing is, it says Nike ... just do it anyway.
That's so good. Did you pitch them that?
Yeah, I did. And they were like, it's outside of the realm of the thing that we're giving to other people, which is we're giving them the feeling of being the professional athlete.
Yeah.
We don't want to give people the feeling of being the everyman or woman.
It's all aspiration.
Yeah. I want to be the just do it anyway of poetry. I'm not trying to be anybody's guide in their lives. I'm not even trying to be the representation of what greatness is in my work.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to express myself. And if I tell the truth, I feel like at least somebody will relate to it, and it will be moving and meaningful for them so that they can look into their own lives.
That's beautiful. I love the just do it anyway, too, because I think what holds most people back from doing art or from doing anything scary is the idea that I have to be amazing. I have to be the best.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is fear. And honestly, I feel like so much of my own unhappiness that I've like traced back to the root source of it lately has been an unwillingness to get out of my comfort zone and an unwillingness to do things that feel scary or to do things that I might fail at. And it's keeping me in this comfort zone that actually doesn't equate to happiness at all. And so the just do it anyway is like, you might suck at it. It might be uncomfortable. You might get rejected, but don't self-reject, but just do it anyway. I love that.
You're definitely going to suck at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just get that out of the way at the beginning. But that doesn't mean that you won't have kernels of brilliance within the suckiness, or it doesn't mean that you may suck way less than you think you suck.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't mean that the process of doing it is any less valuable for you in your life. And anything that you do in your life that is scary to you winds up being something that echoes into the rest of your life in a really positive way. So I think it's the act often, not the expectation, that is more important.
Is that how you approach fear in your life? Like just knowing that the process of like going through it and facing it will give you an outcome, even if, the actual success doesn't come?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the reason that I think AI is like amazing, but ultimately it won't be able to do what I do. It is risking nothing. So it could take the entirety of my art, or it could take the entirety of poetry in general, and it could create something out of that. But it never risks embarrassment. It never risks failure. It never risks time.
Yeah.
And there is something that is really important about the risk. The standing up there and saying, yeah, like everybody might reject me.
Yeah.
But here I am, telling my truth to you, celebrating my life, spending in the middle of space on a random Friday.
Yeah.
in a podcast studio. Here we are. It's like, this is unbelievable to be alive. So I would say that as valuable as AI will be, people will not value it in the same way as somebody getting up and telling you about their life and risking something.
Mm. Yeah, that vulnerability is what connects us. And maybe that's what we're lacking so much right now, is everything is so curated and can feel really artificial. So we've lost so much of that like vulnerable connection that makes anything worth doing. I went to the Moth Storytelling Slam with some friends recently, and they were like pretty critical of it. I think they had like really high expectations of like what this would be and like what these stories would be. And so they walked away with such a different experience than me. And I walked away being like, I loved that. And then they're like, what? You thought that was great? And I'm like, I loved experiencing this vulnerability live of these people getting up and for 5 minutes sharing a piece of themselves. And so you can grade something if you want based on like, okay, well, what's a story arc and what are all these like metrics? But did it make you feel something? Did you feel closer to them? Did you know them more? Like, did they share a truth that like moved you? But I think we get so caught up in critique and this expectation of perfectionism and being anti things rather than being pro things.
You're being pro against.
Yeah, exactly. And so it just really reminded me that like for me, good art and a good experience is like, did I feel a piece of someone? Were they vulnerable?
Yeah, I'm not sure that critique is creativity. It might be, and it certainly might be to other people. It is not for me. I've literally never left a comment about some piece of art where I was like, I want you to know what I feel about this. So I just think like I critique internally and I have opinions all the time. But I'm not just like posting my opinions to feel powerful.
Yeah. People are really quick to judge what other people are doing and they're not in the arena at all.
Everything in life is hard. Everything. Life is hard.
Yeah.
Everything is really, really challenging to do at a high level.
100%.
And to be successful at anything or to be vulnerable anywhere, it's truly amazing to me. So I guess the reason why I'm expressing that is because as an artist, as a creator, as somebody that is putting themselves out there constantly and risking failure or judgment, I know what it's like from the inside out.
Yeah.
And I would never do that to somebody else. I might decide to turn off the movie. I might not listen to the album again. I might have a conversation about art that's an exploration of critique because that's about process. That's about creativity in a different way. But just straight hating on something, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't align with that at all. I think people who do that are deeply unhappy is the only thing I can figure out. I think like happy people who are in a good mental space tend to be supportive and tend to be like cheering each other on. So I do think it's like a symptom of the state of people's mental health when they're really, really critical, quick to judge. Yeah, putting others down. Speaking of happiness, you have this line that like changed my brain chemistry from your poem Happiness, which is on the Never Ending Now. Happiness is not a point, it's a range. It's not a goal that you reach because it's constantly in phase.
Happiness is not a point, it's a range. It's not a goal that we reach because it's constantly in phase. But if you stay inside the margins and you consciously engage, your happiness can find a balance on the razor's edge of change. My happiness is not an accident. I practiced it and practiced it. I tried to master it, but life's too multifaceted. Besides, we'd all get bored without resorting to change. What's my point? Happiness is not a point, it's a range.
I love that so much. And I'd love to know how that changed your approach to happiness in life.
Well, that was actually a line that Bob said to me in one of our sessions. He said, happiness is not a point, it's a range. And I said, I really like that. Can I put that in a poem? And he said, yeah, he liked my poetry. He would come to shows and stuff.
That's
which
so
was
cool.
Probably unprofessional in retrospect, but I'm so glad he did because it actually like deepened our relationship and made me open up and trust him more. So he said yes, and I didn't do anything with it for a few years. And then I was just like looking through my notes and I saw that line. And I think, oftentimes I'll write something when the time is right, but I'll notice something, you know, sometimes months, years before. And then I have to catch up to being in the right place to actually figure out what I want to say after that moment of inspiration. And I think that idea of happiness is not a point, is a range. It's a range is like a really cool idea because you don't then think of happiness as a destination. You think of it as a journey. And you realize that like at any time on this journey, if you realize you're out of the range, of whatever your own happiness is, you can have tools to pull yourself back into the range. Like if you get in the red zone, like if you're in your car and you don't have any gas and the red light clicks on and it says you got 25 miles left. Well, if your happiness is in a range and you hit that red zone and you're like, I got 25 miles left and I'm either going to crash out or I'm going to flip out, right? Or I'm going to run out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to go to the gas station. You have to find things to refill your own mental wellness bucket.
Yeah.
And so it's just a nice reminder for people. Yeah, we practice happiness.
It's a great response to something that I think is keeping people really stuck with their mental health right now, which is that we have been like sold this commodified idea that we should always be happy. And if you're not always happy, there's something wrong with you. And like you need to buy and do the course and sign up for this thing. And it's just like, it's now become such a stressful thing, the pursuit of constant happiness. And we can't always be happy. That's not realistic, nor should we be. There's like a whole range of emotions that are completely normal and important to experience. But we have now this pressure to always be happy. And when I read that poem, it really hit me and helped me like put words to that feeling of like, I think we're being sold an idea that's not real. And it's preventing us from actually experiencing happiness when it does happen because we just want it to be all the time. But it's a range and it's not a destination.
The constant pursuit of happiness can make you very unhappy.
Yeah.
But the constant pursuit of presence, peace, prosperity,
Connection.
self-love, love of others, and then the pursuit of the range of happiness.
Yeah.
I would say that that's very valuable.
It's a worthy pursuit. I also love this part of your poem called Goldfish. These walls are keeping people out and keeping people in. I guess it's good to know where someone ends and someone else begins. But our boundaries become prisons when we see what could have been. I'd love to know what kind of boundaries you've implemented in your life to protect your emotional well-being.
End of the interview.
And we're out.
I'll tell you my most recent one.
Okay.
Anjana and I got into a little bit of a fight because we've just been like navigating bringing our son Arthur into the world. He's 3 months old, so he just moved
Wow.
from newborn stage into baby stage, and he's adorable, and we love him like we couldn't express. And yet there's so many changes, and there's lots of classes, Lamaze, breastfeeding classes. You go to Kaiser or whatever hospital you're at, and they're like, this is how you keep the baby alive. There's really not any classes that we came across that says this is how your life might change, like as parents,
Yeah.
or this is how your immediate relationship
yeah.
might change, or this is how your physiology and your brain might change. There's books and stuff like that about lots of elements of it, but really there isn't that I have come across. And if there is, anybody can reach out and let me know what it is, because I'm actually very curious why that doesn't exist in $1 billion wellness industry or fertility, baby,
Yeah.
parenting industry.
What to do actually when the baby comes home, like what's
Yes.
going to happen between
Exactly.
and the hormones and all the things that are going on. And
Yes. And by the way, everybody has a different mountain to climb, and everybody will have different views. But you could lay out some of those views. You could lay out some of those mountains for people. So anyway, we were in an argument, and sometimes when I feel like something is unjust, I will need to discuss it until I feel seen.
I get that.
And sometimes that can lead to an intense interaction because I can be very intense when I'm trying to get my point across. And Andriana stopped me in the middle of the argument and she said, "Your feelings do not justify your bad behavior."
Hmm.
I thought that was deep.
Damn.
Yeah, she dropped bars.
Yeah.
So then I said, "Oh man, all right."
Bringing her in next time.
And I thought about that for the following days. Your feelings do not justify your bad behavior. Because then I thought about it more. I thought, okay, well, yeah, she's right. And actually being right doesn't justify my bad behavior. How somebody else is treating me, even if it's very wrong, doesn't justify my bad behavior because it doesn't match who I want to be. My sleep deprivation and dealing with Arthur's colic and not knowing how to deal with a baby that's crying 5 hours a day does not justify my bad behavior. Having all this extra responsibility and nobody really to support or discuss it with does not justify. My abuse growing up does not justify my. You could actually say infinite versions of the same sentence.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, I hear that. I need to set a boundary where, as we are discussing these things, I do not try to be seen or even understood. I just express and then give space. Actually, it's been very, very helpful. We haven't gotten in one fight since, and that's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago.
So it was a self-boundary.
Yeah, I think that self-boundaries are as important as boundaries with other people.
Yeah.
You know, she was setting a boundary with me as well.
Yeah.
She was saying something that was really important for her to say that. Because what was happening is I was kind of like poisoning the well by trying to be understood and trying to be heard. And when you poison the well, it can lead to resentment. And one of the amazing things about Andriana and I is we're just always on the same page. When you have a kid, though, the one biggest thing that I would say that was different from my experience, expectations versus reality, is everything that Andriana and I have ever gone through, we were able to find a mutual reality because we were having similar experiences.
Right.
But actually, the father and the mother can have vastly different experiences when the baby is born.
Yeah.
And so that was really all I was trying to do was say,
Here's mine. Yeah.
But eventually you just have to go like, okay, well, even then, if we have different experiences, I have to leave room because otherwise you suffocate what you love to death. So, it's nice to have a road sign. We're all kind of like lost, but it's nice to know where you are on the road to nowhere.
I like that. That's a great example. Yeah. I think in the boundary conversation that's happening a lot in the world right now, everyone's like, exactly like what your poem says, like kind of shutting people out a bit too much with boundaries and not necessarily holding themselves accountable with boundaries. And I do think that's just as important. So I love that example. And I think I really relate because I'm a pursuer in relationships in terms of like my communication style. So like I will pursue until a resolution is found at the expense of like finding a resolution. So with my last partner, he needed space. He needed to like cool down. He would need to like take a minute, go for a run and process and then come back and have a good discussion. And I'm like, you're running away from me. We need to discuss this now in real time. Like I want to get on the same page immediately. And so really learning that just because that's what works for me, that's not fair if someone else doesn't work that way. And then setting some boundaries up for myself of like, okay, I understand this is how you process. Can we come back together at another point and discuss? And just being a bit more respectful of how other people navigate a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like when you cut somebody out of your life, which sometimes is necessary, it's not a boundary, it's a wall.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or it's a machine gun.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, sometimes you need to do things like that, but actually healthier boundaries, especially if somebody's like a primary relationship, and I'm not talking about Anjana anymore, but like if you have family members or whatever that you have complicated relationships with, I mean, I don't think that that always warrants like cutting them out of your life.
Yeah.
I think it warrants like setting boundaries within the relationship. And even if they can't acknowledge or respect the boundaries, you just have to find a way not to attach so much and just continue to set them
Yeah.
or create space in between so that you can get back to yourself and you know who you are when you're setting that boundary again, you know?
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think boundaries are being wildly misused, and people are just putting up walls and calling them boundaries, and they're supposed to be bridges. Like they're supposed to allow you to be in connection with others in a way that feels still peaceful for you or it's still doable for you. But people are like, I'm setting a boundary, and then just fucking cutting someone out completely. And sometimes it's necessary to cut someone out, but I agree.
Yeah, if there's like real abuse, or if somebody's just, you know, not gonna last your lifetime, that's okay too.
Yeah.
You know? But I do find that people, you know, there's this memification of boundaries or mental health where people are abusing a lot of these tools. And I
Abusing
think-
therapy talk and
Exactly.
Yeah.
And really, that's just another form of narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't live up to my exact, I don't feel the way that I feel I should deserve. And it's like, dude.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Like everybody's got to wake up and accept the fact that we don't know where we're going or why we've come.
Yeah. And use these tools, like therapy tools, with like good intent and not just to like win or to fuck over other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Kindness.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of, I think we're in not to catastrophize, but I think we're in a loneliness epidemic right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it can also be a self-perpetuating cycle. I know for me, when I'm not in a great space, I just cut off the thing that would probably make me feel better, which is connection. And I withdraw and I create more loneliness for myself. And I'm curious to know how you think we can do better at cutting through the loneliness so many of us are feeling right now, and how we can show up for others when they're struggling.
Get out of the house. If you're depressed and you're feeling lonely, get out of your house. That's the best, easiest first step. Now, just because it's the easiest step doesn't make it easy.
Mm-hmm. Simple, but not easy.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to get out of your house. It's hard to be in the world when you don't want to be seen. But I would say that that is a really, really good first step. Because when you get out of your house, you're not in your head. You actually have to deal with things that are outside of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in your environment and everything is like familiar and comfortable, you start to think about all the stuff that you're upset about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's good to think about the stuff that you're upset about at times. And I think it's good to express through art or other forms, modalities that can help you move the energy, the things that you're upset about.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you should ruminate or perpetuate or exaggerate the things you're upset about. It's really a luxury to be a victim.
Mm-mm.
It's a luxury. If you were fully in survival mode, you would not have time to victimize yourself. You would not have time to be depressed. You would not have time. Yeah, I'm talking to myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So get out of your house, man. And I know that's hard when you're in the winter in Canada or something like that.
No, but I needed to hear that in January. I was not leaving my house, and I made those changes, and you're completely right. Like step one was just literally like signing up for a workspace, getting out into the world, going to coffee shops, having micro connections with other humans that reminded me I'm not alone in the world and there is good out there, and just got me out of that like mental rot.
Yeah, even just being around other people's energy. Like the guy that's like,
shout out to Chris.
Yeah, shout out to Chris. The guy that's like recording this.
Yeah.
He's like a nice guy, you know, like he was cool. And I'm probably never going to see you again, Chris, which is totally okay. Or maybe we'll become best friends. You know, we never know. But I guess my point is that it's nice to like, I don't know, see somebody else navigating the world
Yeah.
in a moment. Now we're creating a piece of art together. But even if you just see somebody like the woman who let me up here, and this woman comes up on crutches.
Mhm.
She's like, "I'll let you in." So then we had this little interaction about, her broken foot and how she was feeling. And, um, if you're in your house, you don't remember that people have broken feet.
Yeah, you lose perspective. You need to get out in the world and like that gives you perspective. Like that, I mean, that's why I love travel so much because I remember I went to India in my early 20s
Mhm.
and I'd come out of like a really fucking bad relationship. And the last text before I just blocked this guy was, "You can run away to anywhere, but you're still going to be exactly the same way you are." I was like, wrong. Because I mean, I understand what he was saying, but I fucking went on this trip so like self-absorbed in I'm lost in my early 20s and I've gone through this shit breakup and I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And then like sat and, meditated with people who are dying of cancer
Right.
and people who are going through shit. And it's not a pissing contest of who has the most pain. There's enough pain to go around, but it's a reminder that like this is a sliver of the world that I'm experiencing right now. And there's so much more out there. And I think travel, leaving the house, all of whatever is accessible to you is a reminder of like how much more and how much bigger the world is than whatever you're experiencing in this moment.
Yeah, there's that saying, no matter where you go, there you are.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. But there is an additive thing that's on the other side of that, which is no matter where you go, there you are. That doesn't mean that where you are can't change who you are.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
can. It does.
I think so too.
You can change the world, but the world can change you too.
Every place has an energy too. I feel very different here than I do at home. Like your surroundings do matter.
What's different?
I think the sense of community and creativity and like just everyone's like pursuing a dream. And it doesn't feel, there's a lot of struggle here too, but people aren't settling in their lives in a like, I'm going to wake up every day and hate what I do because that's just how the world works. There's like a resistance to that here that I think is really refreshing.
It's good.
There's
but
pros
the
and
grass
cons.
is always greener on the other
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
They're like, oh, the grass is greener on the other side. Yeah, it's still grass.
Yeah.
Still gotta mow it.
Mhm.
So I would just say that there's pros and cons. And like, I bet where you're from, there's also a sense of groundedness,
Yeah.
a sense of connection, a sense of community.
There's reliability.
There's
No one's
reliability.
flaky. Everyone's there's pros and cons to both. But yeah, I think it's important to listen to like where your energy feels good as well and like figure out what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to relationships. I'm also curious to know what your take is on taking care of your emotional health within a relationship. Like, do you see the best approach as like co-regulating together, as like being on the journey with your partner or having them be on the journey with you when you're going through mental health ups and downs? Or do you see it more important to have like an independent approach of like, I'm responsible for my mental health and I need to take care of it, so I come into this relationship, in a good place?
I would say both. And I would say that everybody should do whatever works for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be unique to them as individuals, and it's going to be unique to them in the relationship. I have trust issues, so it's kind of important for me to continue to be authentic with my partner. And Adriana and I have a great communication and a great relationship, even when we're going through hard things. So, yeah, I self-regulate. She self-regulates, and then we also communicate with each other.
I guess I'm thinking about it more, realizing like some of my previous codependent tendencies of like, how much do I want to go into new relationships, really being independent in my ownership of my mental health. But I also want to like let someone in and like allow it to take up enough space that like we're on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like you have to also just be clear within yourself what is negotiable and what is non-negotiable. Like there are things that are non-negotiable for me. Like if Adriana lied to me, that's non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
Because of how I grew up. But she doesn't. You know what I mean? And she knows that too. Not that she would anyway, because she's a very truthful person, but she understands the importance of that for me. Some people don't care about that, actually. some people actually enjoy kind of like lying in these like little white lies to their partner because it keeps like a certain amount of like excitement and mystery and I mean, people are fucking weirdos, you know.
Yeah.
They have
Like,
all
who
sorts
the
of
fuck are
things
these
out
people?
there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, lying kinks out here.
no, I wasn't even talking about sexuality, although maybe that too. Really, I was just saying that people have different things that are negotiable and non-negotiable. So you have to decide what's non-negotiable for you. If you can regulate something on your own, that's kind of negotiable.
Yeah.
And you just say, oh, this is who this person is. I'm not going to change that. I need to figure out how to regulate it when it comes up. If it's non-negotiable, you have to co-regulate it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to build resentment, and then that is going to wind up metastasizing in the relationship. And all of a sudden, you'll wake up one day and realize you're not in love anymore.
Do you have a poem you feel like sharing?
What if Martin Luther King Jr. was into video games? What if Gandhi wanted to Netflix and chill? What if Einstein was on Prozac? What if Buddha was too stressed to sit still? What if Mother Teresa counted likes instead of counting hugs? What if Cleopatra was a supermodel who spent her nights in clubs? What if Socrates was a contestant on The Bachelorette? What if Rumi was in advertising? Would I buy his shit? Shit. What are you doing with your time? Yours and mine. You don't want to have regrets for all the years you've left behind. And every year that passes, someone's coming up behind. They're here to take our place in a never-ending line. So what's your higher purpose, and is it worth the grind? It's going to take some hard work. You have to burn before you shine. Are your thoughts and your dreams and your actions all aligned? What are you doing with your
Time?
time?
Beautiful. I love that. I love burn before you shine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one last question that I always ask my guests. What is a lesson that you wish you had learned in school that would have better prepared you for this adulting journey we are all on?
Well, I just decided I was stupid because I had a bit of a learning disability, and I was having a hard time socializing. And in my head, I was like, well, I guess I'm just dumb. And because of that, I never really tried. I did just enough to be in the middle of the pack, you know, not to get too much attention. I actually wonder what it would have been like had I applied myself academically or realized that there's different intelligence.
Yeah.
So maybe just understanding that there's plenty of ways to be smart in the world. And just because this particular class isn't your strength doesn't mean that you're not intelligent or you can't be successful. So to give yourself more grace in that department, that would have been nice if somebody told me that.
There's a lot more smarts than book smarts. So yeah, I love that. I haven't gotten that before. That's a good one. I'm going to spare you of the self-promotion because I know you don't like that part.
Okay, good.
But go online. Everything will be in the show notes. I will link everything. Adam, also known as InQ, has 2 amazing books out, Inquire Within and The Never Ending Now, and does workshops and shows around the world. And it's a life-changing experience. I can't recommend it enough.
Thank you. I do want to do one self-promotion that's not mine, which is this company, Dad Gang, is my buddy EJ's company. And it's such a cool company. It's basically hats and paraphernalia for dads by dads. I love self-promoting when it's not about self.
I know, this is the most you thing ever. You're like, I'm going to promote, not me.
Yeah, exactly. It's a dope company. So
amazing. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.